Yo, get in, chop.
I'm a bit self-aware, sometimes it's fucked up, but life is gonna lie, so I ain't gonna slow up. I'm on a mission to change the face of mental health, kicking knowledge to my people, cause you know that health is wealth. It's your lucky day, cause you tuned into the greatest. Out here striving to survive, sometimes we fake it till we make it. If your mental health is slipping, then please don't touch that dial, go and grab. Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Treaty LPC, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast. We are back this season and better than ever. Thank you for tuning in. I really, really appreciate you guys continuing to pour love into this show. It is a very, very good passion of mine, and I really love being able to do this. I'm really excited to speak with today's guest. Her name is Anna Peck, and this young lady has gone through a lot. She's overcome a lot, even going back to her birth and some of the challenges that she faced during that time in her life. But she is truly the definition of a survivor. She is the owner of Creative Haven, and I'm going to get into what she does with her organization, her business, but without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast, Anna Peck. Hey, Anna, how's it going today?
Hey, it's going good. How are you?
I am doing well. Really grateful to talk to you today and really learn a little bit more about your story. I was really intrigued with hearing some of the things that you've overcome. And so we can actually just start by diving in and just tell us a little bit about you and some of the things that you've experienced that have got you to this point in your life.
Okay. Well, like she said, my name's Anna Peck. I was born in Pensacola, Florida. Okay. And I am 39 years old. I turned 40 this year on December 28th. I'm a really close to Christmas baby. Okay. I was supposed to be a March baby, but we'll kind of, I guess, start there before I was even born. I was born a preemie. My due date was March. I came out in December. I had to stay in NICU for a while because my lungs were not fully developed. So I did that. And I was also born with clubfoot. That's the common name for it. There's a really long name. It's rare. I see it a lot more now, which is real weird than it did back when I was a kid going through it. But if you don't know what clubfoot is, it's basically like instead of your foot being flat, it's kind of curved. Or your ankle can curve. There's different forms of it. Mine was, instead of my foot being flat, my toes could touch my heel almost. It was just curled. Oh, and had multiple surgeries. My first surgery was I think when I was less than 24 hours old. I was also born with cleft palate and cleft lip. That's why I had basically almost no top lip. It's because of the cleft palate. It runs in my family. It can skip a couple generations. It can pop back up. From what I've learned, I did a little bit on my family history, but it's so weird because no immediate family that I knew from had it, other than my mom. My mom did have a cleft lip, but anybody before that, we couldn't find anybody, and it was just so weird how it popped up. But, so I went from there. I had surgeries on my mouth, I had surgeries on my lip growing up, and on my foot. I missed out on a lot of school because I would say before I graduated high school, I had about over 15 surgeries on my ankle, on my foot. A lot. Yeah, and going through school and kids are mean, kids were mean back then. So it's just going through that, going through the challenges of that, and there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of it stems from, having the multiple surgeries back to back. And just, yeah, it was a lot medical wise going through to start off with.
Yeah, I'm sure that was very challenging, like having to have your body go through so many changes before you even really got to know who you were as a person. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's funny because I have an older brother and had kids. I remember one particular, we had the same surgery at the same exact time. My mom had to drive us to Mobile, Alabama for the special doctor. And this is when my biological father, was not the best father. My mom did it by herself. She took us to our surgery, carried us out to the car by herself, one by one, and my brother and me had casts on both legs all the way up to our thigh. And so I remember as a kid, we were scooting around during that time. We're scooting around on our butts on the floor with our legs, racing down the hallway. Who can scoot down the hallway the fastest?
Yeah.
So, and it was very different. I had a different childhood from a lot of kids my age. I didn't like wearing shorts. I didn't like wearing skirts. I didn't like showing my feet, anything. I always wore pants. And we live in Florida. It gets 100 degrees down, But back then I was like, nope, I was so self-conscious. Like, it was bad enough, with my lip. You can't hide it, And like I said, kids are mean, And so I just grew up very different. And it's so funny now because my daughter, she just turned 13. She, luckily, she does not have none of that. Other than she had a soft palate cleft lip, but that was so minor compared to what it could have been. Yeah. So I was very, very grateful, and very happy that she does not have to go through what I went through in regards, because she gets to wear the shorts and the skirts and the cute shoes. And I'm like, I'm jealous,
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up, you see all the fashions and, especially middle school, high school, you see all the cute high heels and all, I couldn't wear high heels. I can never skate. I don't know how to skate, never can, because of the surgeries that I've had. The last one that I had, they fused my ankle and my joint together. So my ankle has no flexibility. I cannot flex my ankle at all. It's almost like I don't have the rotating like ankle joint that, I don't have that. So me skating would end up with me probably with a broken ankle.
Wow. Yeah. So, you're giving me sympathy pains over here.
When I tell people that, they're like, oh, I'm like, I don't want pity, anything like that. It's, I guess with me, it's like, everyone's so surprised. And I'm like, to me, it's normal. I'm like, why is that, So it's very different. It made me grow up a lot different.
Yeah, I can imagine like going through that throughout your whole childhood and kind of trying to navigate through life with different things, dealing with in and out of the hospital with surgeries. I mean, that's a lot. And I know you kind of focus on some of the things as it relates to like, okay, well, I can't wear certain things. I'm curious, how did going through all of that shape the way that you saw yourself?
Oh, God, I thought I was like, I did not have a good self-esteem, because like I said, kids were mean back then. I got called pig nose. I got made fun of because one time I was on crutches in school, and kids were not friendly then.
Yeah.
Gosh, what else? And let's see, when I walk, I did it back then, but like middle school, high school, I'd walk with a little bit of a limp, because of the ankle surgery. People make fun of that. I had, even in my 20s, which was sad to me because it was grown adult people, had a thing called the Anna walk. And I found that, and I'm like, and I mean, these were grown people, like in their 20s. I'm like, really? That's so much. High school wasn't too bad. I had a lot of friends. I got along with everybody. I was in chorus, so I did activities. But also, I was outgoing, but just not in school, because my dad, the one who raised me, he was a musician. So I got to do a lot of things, but it just not necessarily at school. Because I had friends, but it was like, I had my one best friend that I'm still friends with today. But other than that, that was it. I wasn't really popular. I didn't do cheerleading, didn't do none of that, so it was just, and it affected, my self-esteem. There was a time once I started wearing makeup, I would not leave my house unless my hair and makeup was done, because I felt like I looked horrible. I looked ugly, and, my parents, they say, oh, don't worry, what parents will always say, but it's hard, to avoid it when you hear it so much.
Right. Yeah. So how did you kind of get through that? Because emotionally, that's a lot to have on a kid. Like, did you ever pursue therapy, or was there anything else that you did to help get to a better place?
It's so funny. It just seemed like therapy was not around back then when I was like for kids.
For
like,
kids,
it
yeah.
wasn't as common. You know what I mean? Like, I know now, kids, like, I know my daughter, she's very into her emotions, her feelings, whereas back then, I feel like kids saying they have anxiety, when they're like, oh, get over it. Like, you're 12 years old. You don't know what anxiety is. That's kind of few things I heard. You're so-and-so, you don't wait till you become an adult. So it was kind of back then, like, you're a kid, do as I say, not as I do type, and it was different. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I know that therapy is a lot more prevalent these days.
Yeah.
And I guess.
I think what I kind of meant by that, I think back then it had more of a stigma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Therapy. Oh, you go to therapy, you must be crazy or mental. Which, I mean, I probably am a little crazy, but
I think we're all a little crazy
at some point.
Yeah, we all have our issues, but no, yeah. I get what you're saying. Like it wasn't something that a lot of people even knew about, and it was more so for things like severe and persistent mental illnesses and things of that nature. Whereas today, people, talk about therapy like they talk about going to get lunch. Like it's a really common thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you work through it if you didn't go through any type of, therapy modalities?
I mean, my parents were really good. My mom and my stepdad, they, kept me in good spirits about a lot of things. I was a daddy's girl growing up. I did a lot of stuff with him on weekends. Like I said, he was a musician, so I was usually going to watch him play or, things like that. But how did I get through it it's so funny because even back when I was a kid, I did arts and crafts. I was the kid in the craft aisle. For Mother's Day, I would make my mom handmade gifts. Like, I was just always interested in crafting. Like, I just, even since, I learned painting. So back then, like, making crafts, stenciling, make gifts, things like that. And then just as I got older, preteen, teenager, kind of, I got out of it for a while. And it's just kind of funny now that it's what I do now. So yeah, it's just, it was kind of like my when I started, I was just kind of like, I think I want to go back to that. I want to, so that's kind of where I think that came from because I couldn't I couldn't be outside a lot. I had a swing set when I could, but a lot of times I was in a cast, and I couldn't do much. So you're either drawing, you're coloring, watching TV back then. We didn't have tablets, didn't have phones. Yeah. We had Barbie dolls, coloring books, things like that. So a lot of my activities had to be, I could sit down. Gotcha. So that's kind of, I think that's just kind of where it stems from, honestly. And that's how I got through it, was keeping myself busy. I had a brother, so he was going through his wasn't as bad as mine. I had more surgeries than he did. But I guess that's just the way I got through it, because I would do things with my dad, home projects with my dad. If there was something to fix in the house, I was helping my dad. My brother was a gamer. He was in his own little world, and I was daddy's girl following him along. Gotcha. So I kind of think that's what got me through it, honestly. So yeah, that point.
Gotcha. So you've overcome all of these things. You've gone through all of these surgeries in your childhood, dealing with being bullied and talked about and that. And then you get into adulthood and you experience even more challenges. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to lose a partner and maybe, just how you navigated through that part of your challenges?
That, and it's going back, it was July of 2022, July 8th. It was, I don't say it was on, I can't remember what weekday it was now, to be honest, but July 18th, 2022, it was a summer, school was out, and my husband left for work. He was a truck driver, but he was home every night. He drove locally. He had a motorcycle, had it probably almost a year. It was kind of, I think, his midlife crisis thing, because the way I found out he bought it was literally in a text saying, I did a thing. I was like, what do you mean you did a thing? And he did stuff, like like the Jeep I have right now, he did that to me. He surprised me with my Jeep and had it delivered in the driveway, and I'm like crying in the driveway, like boo-hoo crying, so he was very spontaneous like that. He was just like, I get a thing. And I was like, okay. He came back and he was like, I wanted us to have something because we were going through our own, our marriage wasn't perfect. We had our own ups and downs. And at the time, I had my daughter who was 9. I had a stepdaughter who was 17. He said, the girls are kind of getting a little, daughter's 9. She's still young, but not a toddler. Yeah. He was like, I wanted us just to have something for us that we could do. I was like, okay. And we did. We had a lot of time enjoying it. My dad rode a motorcycle. So, I grew up around a musician, motorcycles. That was my dad's world. So we did that. And when I lost that day, it was just weird. Like, he went to work and I had slept in. It was summer. There was no school. And it was really weird. It was like 9:30. Hadn't heard from him. And normally he would, text me when he got to work. And the way I found out about the accident was one of my friends had shared a post on Facebook that there was an accident on a street, black motorcycle. I didn't think nothing of it at the time, but he had Life 360, and I was like, let me check it. Well, I see it at that intersection, but it's moving. Like his life, I'm like, okay. So I grabbed and I'm thinking, okay, maybe he's hurt. Like maybe, I don't know. So, and it was less than 10 minutes from my house, the accident.
Wow.
So I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna go find it, and I did. And I kind of don't remember a lot. I remember pulling up, and this is where a lot of, I think my anxiety and the trauma comes from now, because I saw not him, but he was under the tarp, obviously. And I just remember telling the cops, because I saw his bike on the back. They were putting his bike on the tow truck. And I was like, and I tapped the cop. I was like, and I'm trying to get their attention because they had it all just blocked off. So I pulled my Jeep to the side. I got out and I was yelling at the cop. I was like, hey. And I said, I'm 90% sure that's my husband's bike. And I remember him saying, get the captain, get sergeant, somebody. And I told him, I said, I'm pretty sure that's my husband. He had his license in his hand. He said, and he showed me the license. He said, is this your husband? I said, yeah. And he said, ma'am, I'm sorry, he didn't make it. And at that point, I don't remember a lot. I was told it took 5 to 7 cops to keep me from getting to where he was. I remember they told me to call someone. I remember the person I called was my dad. And my dad had told me, he's like, Anna, you just screaming in the phone. And Dave had thought, because he couldn't really understand what I was saying, he thought something that was wrong with my daughter. And so I gave the cop my phone or something. And it was just from that moment on, it felt like a bomb had blew up in my lap. And it was it's like glitter. It's just it just blows up and it affects everything and it's on everything in your world. And it's been really hard. There's a lot of judgment being a young widow that I've gone through, even from other widows. Because, maybe they didn't agree with what I, was doing, but I was grieving, and I got told, I went out, not to a bar or anything, with my cousin, who's my best friend, one of my best friends. And it was a group of girls. It wasn't a date or anything like that, and I was told, do you think it's appropriate to be in a place like that? I don't think it's appropriate. And I'm like,
seriously?
Yeah, and I'm like, with a group of girls my age, no men, having one drink. I don't even think I drank that night, to be honest. But we threw axes. They were trying to get me out of the house and get my mind off of it, And they took me, and you see like those what do you call it? Those destruction rooms where you can go in and break. Yeah. So my cousin was like, "We're gonna go let out some anger. We're gonna go let out some frustration," and that's what we did. And like I said, it's not a bar. It's called Grizzly Axe there in Pensacola. And it was like, "Is that appropriate for you to be there?" I'm like, "Well, it wasn't appropriate for my husband to die." you know, like I was just, it's so like, my feeling is now, if you ain't been through it, shut up. Like
exactly.
I mean, because I've been divorced, and like I snapped on a dude one day because he compared his divorce to my husband dying.
Wow.
And I was like, and I said, "You need to back up." Like I've lost my filter. I do know that. The grief, I have no filter. And I was like, "Can you?" I was like, "Just do me a favor." I was like, "Don't ever compare my husband's death to you divorcing your wife." I was like, "Because if you ever want to go back to your wife, you can. My husband's dead. I can't go back to that." Like, and a lot of people, they don't realize that because they're, "Oh, well, I'm leaving my wife. I'm kind of going through the same." No, I've been through divorce, and it's totally different. I've experienced death 2 ways, and I've experienced, grief and divorce, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
And even when I did start dating my fiance, who I'm with now, that was when I'll say hell broke loose. There was a lot of, I would just say, death brings out the ugly in people. It brings out the worst in people. And I had a lot of judgment, a lot of, "This is what you should do." A lot of people gave me their opinions when I didn't want them, and I turned, and how, Sandtrice Creative Haven came to be was I turned into a hermit. I didn't go nowhere. I didn't want to go nowhere. There were a few people saying ugly things about me out in the Facebook world, and, my page was being watched, and, anytime I posted a TikTok or anything, I would get a comment. And so
who was watching your page like that? That just sounds really fucked up. Somebody.
It's funny. A lot of it was my late husband's ex-wife.
That's wow. That's crazy. And
a lot of people, people who did not have much to do and didn't know my marriage, when we bought our house, we bought it together.
Okay.
And when that happened, we bought it almost 9 years ago. I think we bought it, together. And at the time, my stepdaughter, who was a lot younger, didn't live with us. It was 50-50. She was here half the time. Well, when he passed, his side of the family and the ex-wife all felt entitled to anything in the house. They wanted to watch. And I mean, I gave everybody their grace, but like, I was told this is his house. I'm like, no. I got the deed right here, and it was, well, you need to do this. We want this. We want that. Everybody felt entitled to what they felt they deserved. And I was just like a dog out in the cold, and it was, I had people like pick an argument with me over headphones.
Wow.
Over on a TikTok, because someone thought they were his gaming headphones, and they were not. They were just a pair of white headphones, big, and everyone's like, "The one thing I wanted, you didn't give to me." And so I had to do a screenshot of me ordering that after his death, that it was not his. It was a pair of mine. And I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, grief and death brings out the ugly in people.
Yeah. It does, 'cause they wouldn't be entitled there. I mean, you would be entitled to everything as his wife. So just the audacity of them to come at you in that way.
Yeah. And it was, at the time, my stepdaughter, she was 17. She was getting ready to turn 18. Not the easiest child to raise. She put us through a lot up to his accident. And when he died, I'll say she and her mom felt entitled to the house. And I was just like, no. And at the time, his daughter had stayed with us because she wasn't getting along with the ex-wife's boyfriend.
Oh.
So I honestly felt like her mom, and because I was told she's your stepdaughter, I have no legal authority over her, even though she's in my house.
Yeah.
Her dad, and I was advised she needs to go stay with her mom. You need to heal your daughter. Daughter's 9. Let her go stay with her mom and focus. And so, I told her, I was like, go heal with your mom and things like that. And that turned into, I kicked her out. I never kicked you out. I've had the law come to my house. I've had to have people trespass off my property. And the whole reason that started was the 17-year-old wanted to turn my house into a party house. Thinking, her friends can come over, smoke. No, you don't. My house is not a hotel. I have a young child here, and she was grieving, and I do not take that away from her. She lost her dad, but I also lost a husband.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was not getting the respect or the grace that I needed while I was grieving too. And so I was advised by attorney and to let her go with her mom. And y'all work together, because I was still working with her, got her set up, get her dad's social security and all that, because my daughter don't get that because she wasn't his biologically. Yeah. So I set that up, and all that. And it was just like, well, and not only that, when her dad, there was a life insurance, I bought her a car. I bought her a Cadillac. Wasn't good enough.
A Cadillac wasn't good enough?
No.
That's...
And I'm like, and it started, because I was told she took it to a car drag show that she was told not to take it to, because it's not a race car. It's a Cadillac. So the car, she kind of ended up blowing the motor, kind of. And I was just like, and it was, okay, we need this. We need more. And I'm like, I'm cashed out, I can't keep funding something. Oh, well, you got money. No, it's not like that. So it was just a lot. It was a lot at one time to deal with. And I was working part-time. I quit that. And like I said, I turned into a hermit. And that was a dark time for me. I felt very alone. I felt very judged. I didn't go nowhere. And it was like, planning his funeral and all that, which I give his best friend was my right hand through all that. And he has had my back through all of it. He stood up to me, to the ex-wife that he knew, and the daughter, he even told the daughter, you're not doing this, let her heal, and I'll just say it was a shit show. Yeah. And everybody's hurt, everybody's grieving. And at that time, I felt like I was giving everybody their grace, but nobody was giving me anything. And so I think I just shut down. Yeah. And Christmas that year, my mom and dad came down here because my dad lived in Michigan. My parents were not even here at this time. They spent Christmas with me and my daughter, and it was a while. It was just me and her. And I turned into a hermit. I didn't go nowhere. I slowly went back to work. part-time, and I worked at a vintage store. And my boss at the time, she was wonderful, held my job for me, didn't let, anything like that. They prepared a meal train, and I had a lot of people on my side, but I also had a lot of people against me too.
Yeah.
At that time. So it was just a really, I was trying to grieve while my daughter, I got her into counseling, grief counseling and things like that. And
did you do grief counseling at all?
Yeah. Okay. And I still, and I just started going back recently because, my dad passed November 24. So it was just like a double, like less than 2 years, losing two of the most important people in my life, Yeah. So it was just a lot. It was a bad time. And I'm sure there was things I could have done better or said something better, but they call it, I'm funny, someone calls it a widow brain. Like your memory sucks and you're in a fog. Like you're surviving. You don't, because during that time, and I even told my doctor, because when he died, I lost my insurance. I mean, you lose income, health insurance, things like that. So like I said, when he passed, it was like a bomb. Everything drops in your lap, and it's bam, 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 all at one time. Here I am trying to plan a funeral, and everybody at his job was like, get it on a Saturday. Like that, if you can get it on a Saturday, everything, do it. So, and the company that he worked for, R&L Carriers, his trucking company, amazing company. Because I was having an issue with the life insurance and them paying for the funeral. And it was just paperwork, wanting to hold the fund, until and so when I was trying to plan the funeral, they couldn't book the date until this $5,000 bill was paid. So I was on the phone with like the job, and I don't know if it was the CEO, it was a high up person that called me to let me know, hey, we're sorry for your loss. We're going to take care of the funeral bill. Don't worry about it. Wow. His company paid for the funeral. His best friend, he worked at the same company. And it's so funny now because now I'm still good friends with him. He's good friends with my fiance. And I'm like, if anybody, and he knows every detail, like he knows every dirty little thing about what my marriage went through. Because when me and my husband would have an argument, he went to his best friend. Yeah. So I'm like, if his best friend can tell y'all, hey, she's not, have my back, to people that he knew before even me and my husband met, and he stood up for me in that way. And he was like, y'all need to just leave her alone, Yeah. And so the funeral, that day, had over 100 people at his funeral, and his best friend actually drove his truck, his big tractor, to the funeral. And the company, I still have it, had a big banner in there. It said, "In loving memory of Jason Peck." It has a quote on it. I can't remember. It's something to do with trucking. I can't remember, but everybody from the company signed this big banner. Wow. So it was just, they were absolutely wonderful, when he died. And yeah, after that, the funeral, I would say that was the day after the funeral. It's like, okay, it was like, now what? And it was like, my mom would be like, hey, let's just get out of the house. I didn't want to go anywhere. Like let's just go up to like Target, walk around, just get you out of the house. I didn't want to go. Like I felt like I was in a fog, and I was like, I just want to go home. Yeah. And I got, when I was going through it, I drank like a fish, because especially at night, I did not like being home at night. I didn't like being alone in the house at night. The nighttime was the hardest because he would come in around 6 o'clock in the evening. So that was when it would hit the most, is that absent not being there. Because now, my stepdaughter, she moved out. She took one of the dogs with her when she moved. So now it really is just me, my daughter, and my dog. And yeah, it was just after that, my mom, she lived with me for a few months, just kind of help with my daughter and, you know, kind of keep me on track type of thing. And that was, it was not fun.
Gotcha. Yeah, you've endured a lot. Like, we don't think about how much in our life changes when we lose our partner and we lose a spouse. What's one thing you wish people knew about what that process is like and going through that? It's like, because that happens a lot more, you know, obviously it happens to people all the time. And you were younger, you know, than most when that happens. What's one thing you wish people knew?
My biggest thing, and it's still a thing now, even July will be 4 years. And I still hear it, you know, now, like I said, it's just because a widow, especially a younger widow, you see them not, you know, because like I said, a lot of people, you get through it. You never get over it. You get through it.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the biggest thing. And when I met my now fiance, I stood him up quite a few times because I just wasn't ready, you know, and it wasn't because of anything he did. It was at that time, I'll back up just a minute. November 22, the first Christmas without my husband. My brother was also in a coma in the hospital. So it was going through that, you know, and I had met him briefly, like, hey, how's it going? You know, and type thing. Hey, let's go out to dinner. Yeah, you know, maybe sometime. And it was January. I finally was like, okay, you know, my brother had came out of a coma. Things were kind of like, I was like, okay, you know, shoot, let's go. You know, why not? And so after that, and then when we went public, within 24 hours of me posting just a post, I'm not even me and him, it was just a picture, I had the ex-wife at my door.
Wow.
And his daughter just thought they were going to walk in my house with my child there, you know, and the law was called. It wasn't pretty. And I thank the Lord that he was here, like, he wasn't living here at that time. We were on the back patio just watching TV and, you know, just hanging out, talking, and they popped up. Okay. And I'm very glad that he was here in that aspect, because I think it could have got really ugly really quick, because it almost did, until she walked in the room and was like separated. Okay. Because it was a very heated moment. That's all I could say. And so I actually ended up getting his ex-wife trespassed off my property and everything, because it was to the point of I was being harassed. She showed up one night when I wasn't here and my mom was here with my daughter. I made a DoorDash delivery. She took the order and showed up. So it was just popping up, following, you know, it was just a lot. That's why the people on my side was like, y'all need to stop. Like, you just stop. And the one thing I just wish people would know is when someone moves on with someone, or they see them somewhat I don't want to say happier, but they're not sad. They're not miserable. My daughter's not miserable. You know, she's not having suicidal thoughts anymore. You know, like, because my daughter went through a very dark time, especially after my dad passed. It was like, oh, well, you didn't love your husband. You didn't love him. I'm like, why do I have to choose? You know, like, there's no competition. He's gone. He's not coming back. And someone said to me, it was actually another widow who told me this. She said, your marriage vows was death to us part. She said, death parted, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, you fulfilled your vows. You're doing nothing wrong.
Right.
And she said, and it was a friend, she was like, we all know Jason.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't want you sad. He wouldn't want you alone, and all that. He was like, we all know that.
Yeah.
And I just felt like in the moment, no matter what I did or didn't do, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I could give a person a $25,000 car. Not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I could give cash money. It's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it like I said, grief it's very ugly, and it brings out the worst in people. And even in me, I would say I've not been, there were things I probably could have handled better. There were probably things I shouldn't have said. But at the time, I was going through it myself.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to leave the door open with my stepdaughter to one day, hopefully. And I told this to my in-laws at the time. I hope one day we can have a conversation, about what we both went through, and maybe come to a common ground, but it hasn't happened yet. But I'm open to it, but not at my house. Meet me in the public, meet me for lunch, meet me at a park, but I don't bring drama to my door no more.
Yeah. Definitely understandable. And I appreciate your openness and vulnerability and kind of sharing that part of your journey. I want to shift gears a bit and ask, how do you personally connect with the idea of being self-aware and fucked up? What kind of drew you to wanting to come on this show?
The title definitely caught my attention. I was like, that's my kind, that's my kind of podcast, and okay. Just being self-aware of my own feelings. And my daughter's taught me a lot on this stuff. Like, she goes to counseling, and like losing after I lost my dad, that's when it was like a double whammy of grief, because even when I lost my husband, my dad, he was here within 24 hours. I don't know how my dad got here so fast driving, but he drove straight through from Michigan. He was the one that took me to see the motorcycle. He was the one that spoke at the funeral, and so when I lost my husband, I still had my dad. I still had that backbone. When I lost my dad, it was like, fuck, and that was when, it really, and, like I say now, I have no filter. I don't hide my feelings a lot no more. And I don't put up with a lot of crap anymore the way I used to. And there's a lot of people that will say, oh, you've changed. Well, yeah, I've lost my husband. I lost my dad within almost 2 years of each other, back to back. And, my dad, when my dad died, I'll say this, I experienced death in 2 ways. When my husband died, it was snap, he's gone. Well, he walked out, he never came back. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say. A week before the accident, we had a argument, and you look back and you're like, God, that's so petty, compared, and because I go through my phone, like, history, all the time, just to look back, and I will just, when my dad died, it was slow. He had lung disease. He was put in hospice. It was very debilitating. It was very sad because my dad, he wasn't my biological, but he raised me. You see this man, he was a 6'2", full-blooded Native American, you big guy with such a big personality. Like, he was a musician that was, to turn into a frail skeleton of what he was. My dad was skin and bones when he passed. And he knew, and I think that was the saddest and hardest thing was my dad knew he was dying. Having to have talks with, and with him, about things that you don't want to talk about, but I also, when he passed, he got to know, I got to tell my dad, I love you, I got to get everything out with him. And I guess that was the biggest difference. When my dad died, I know he left knowing he was loved. I loved him. He loved us. With my husband, I didn't get that. And I guess it's because I didn't get the closure. When my dad died, he was in Michigan. He lived on the Indian reservation in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And he passed it. It was so weird the night. We knew it was coming. He was, hospice nurse in there, doctors, we made multiple trips. And one of the hardest times I had was leaving Michigan, leaving him, because you knew, when I gave him his, that's the last time. And it's a different type of grief to know there's nothing you can do. You want to do everything in your power to save them, and then you can't, and you feel guilt and you feel grief. And that thankfully, I did have my fiance, at the time, because I felt like that was my backbone. My dad would tell everybody, that's my pit bull, talking about me, that's my little, and he was my backbone. And that really threw me in a dark place, right? To lose the two most important people very close to each other, that put me in a dark place. And everyone, I've had people ask me, how do you describe, and that's how I feel. My dad's death was slow. My husband's death he was just gone, and luckily with my dad, I got to know how, this is what I want done. This, I knew what to do. He told me what to do and everything. And it's just, I hate grief. I hate what it does to people. I hate death. I hate what death does to people. And I will still say, even now, I still have my good days. I still have my really bad days. I can look at a picture of my husband or old video or my dad and start bawling, crying. Middle of the day, and it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's a roller coaster. I guess that's really the best way to say it. With grief, it's a roller coaster. And my fiance now, he experienced his brother died young. His brother died when I think he was 34, 35, catching MRSA in the hospital, got sick. Wow. So we had that common ground, and that's kind of where our relationship kind of built off of, was he knew what the grief I was going through. He had met my dad before, he passed and everything. And him and my dad got along really good, and almost like two peas in a pod. It was really quite funny. But yeah, if it wasn't for him and my daughter, I don't know. There are days I don't know if I would be here, to be honest. Because it went that dark.
And I really appreciate you sharing your story here in this space with me, and really just being vulnerable enough to open up and let it all hang out. That's really what this podcast is about. It's about acknowledging those parts of us that aren't fully healed, but the awareness that we bring to them. I want you to kind of share with the people, how can they connect with you if they want to use your services? If they want to connect with you on social media, how can they connect with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You can just, facebook.com/Creative Haven, Instagram, TikTok, all under the same thing, Creative Haven. I do have a website. I can send you the link however. And let's see, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, those are my three. I do have a YouTube channel, but I'm not too active on that yet. I'm still trying to learn the ins and outs of it. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Creative Haven, one word, and you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time again, guys. Please make sure that you connect with Anna. Also, be sure to follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.
I'm a bit self-aware. Sometimes it's fucked up, but life is gonna lie. So I ain't gonna slow up. I'm on a mission to change the face of mental health. Kicking knowledge to my people, cause you know that health is wealth. It's your lucky